Ooh. Hi, Vini.
Right.
So can you please tell us a little bit about yourself, your interests, your academic background, your professional journey?
Of course. Um, so I'm Vinny. I'm 24 years old. I'm a member of the Faith for Earth Youth Council, as you know, and I'm representing the Brahma Kumaris, which is a spiritual organization, which I'm sure we'll come into a bit later, but I guess this question's more about me. So hobbies, drawing, painting. So I've recently gotten into designing stuff on the iPad, which is quite new to me, but I'm loving it. And hopefully I'll be releasing a coloring book, which is like nature oriented at some point in the future. I've got a couple of designs. So this is something that's come along with my spiritual practices as well. It's something that I try and spend a lot of my free time on. Also reading spiritual books and just hanging out with my friends. Um, in terms of professional life, so I'm a chartered accountant, which I didn't always plan on being, but I guess life took me down that route. Um, Currently I work in stakeholder assurance. So we perform non-financial audits on companies on their ESG metrics, so environmental social governance metrics. Previously I worked in financial audit, but I've recently made the switch over.
Lovely, thank you. And so could you please tell us a little bit more about your role within the Faith for Earth Youth Council, as well as at Brahma Kumaris?
Sure. So at the Brahma Kumaris, we've made a little group of the different youth representatives from different UN bodies. So I'm part of that group, and my responsibilities kind of entail being the communication link between the work that we do at the Faith Council and the Brahma Kumaris, kind of feeding both ways. In the Faith for Youth Council, as you know, I'm a member, and it's been great. I'm quite new to the space. So it was a little daunting at first, but now I feel like I really belong, and I've learned, like I feel like I've been a sponge trying to soak everything up. Like just one example of how it's it's helped us in the organization has been that it's like fostered these conversations that we're now having on a more regular basis where we feed back from the work within that we hear about the council, and it's inspiring a lot of ideas. For example, we hand out these blessing cards, they're like little cards which have unique blessings on them. And this is something that's done at the Brahma Kumari centers worldwide. On a daily basis, there's probably hundreds or thousands of blessing cards that are distributed. And surprisingly, we've never thought about the material of those papers. So for the longest time, they've been laminated papers or yeah, so just single-use plastic has been kind of part of the chain in manufacturing those. And recently, as part of the conversations that we've been having, um, we've been thinking about using recycled paper and different materials for that. So that's something that has come out of the inspirations of hearing the work that other members are doing. So yeah, a huge thank you, I guess, from that perspective as well.
Yeah, well, thank you for, kind of being the bridge between your organization and the Faith for Earth Youth Council. It's very much appreciated. And so I'm curious about the teachings of the Brahma Kumaris as well as the work of the organization. Could you please tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, of course. So, like I said, that Brahma Kumaris is a spiritual organization. It's an organization dedicated to personal transformation and world renewal. So it was founded in 1937, and it's actually the largest spiritual organization which is ran slash administered by women. So since being established, there are over 5,000 centers in over 110 countries. Um, and in terms of the teachings of the Brahma Kumaris, so the first teaching is that you're a soul. So like a tiny point of light which resides here in the middle of the forehead, as opposed to the body, which we believe that we are for for so long. So while the body is perishable, the soul is immortal, imperishable, and it's created in the image of the Supreme Soul, being the same. So essentially, the teachings and the work are focused on inner peace and doing the inner work, as well as doing the outer work, in order to make both of them fruitful. Like how you wouldn't send out a key worker in the pandemic without a mask on, or they say that you should put on you should put your own oxygen mask on first before helping other people. So it's kind of keeping yourself protected as well as being available for service and world service. But another interesting aspect of the teachings is how it's not that you should do the inner work and then go do the outer work. It kind of, you're taught to do them both together and simultaneously. So there's a concept called karma yoga. So karma being action and yoga being connectedness. So staying connected to the Supreme Soul, the divine being, while carrying out tasks. And that's what allows the students of the Brahma Kumaris to create a transformation quite easily in their awareness and their lifestyle, and also links to the economic impacts that come as a result of that, which students don't even realize they're having in a lot of cases. And I'm sure we'll get on to more of that.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And so how do you perceive the relationship between faith, environmental action, environmental preservation, and peace building?
So with faith and environmental preservation in particular, I feel like they are two sides of the same coin. So faith and spiritual practices kind of lead you to having a positive impact on the environment without even realizing it always. Like I was reading about this study, which took place in the UK on 2,000 women, and they found that respondents in the survey only wore an item of clothing 7 times. I guess it just shows when you do become more inclined towards having a faith in spiritual practices, then because your focus starts turning inwards rather than outwards, your happiness and your contentment also comes from inside. Like there's a quote which is something along the lines of stop searching here and there, the jewels are within you. So I guess that's for me how the link between faith and environmental preservation comes in. Recognizing that we are part of nature helps us to form that relationship with nature as well. Like we say, you quite commonly use phrases like Mother Earth to refer to the planet, but I feel like that relationship with the earth comes through faith.
Thank you. And I think you mentioned that earlier, this sort of interconnectedness that sometimes comes from faith, that makes us feel like we're all part of a greater whole, and that, as such, we are responsible for each other's well-being. Also, I think something that comes from faith, a very important value that can strengthen and inspire even environmental action. So definitely agree with that. And so what work are you personally or your organization currently doing on climate change, environmental preservation, and peace?
Yeah, so the organization has launched something called One Solar. So this is something that was launched in 2017, and it's a solar thermal power plant, which is situated in Rajasthan, where the headquarters of the Brahma Kumaris is. And I was lucky enough to visit it in March. And it was an amazing experience to hear about how it's been created and the challenges that they went through. Currently, there's dedicated staff of more than 40 people coordinating the activities on site and talking just about green jobs and the wider impact it's had on the local environment as well. So it created employment of local workforce so there were more than 400,000 man days of project installation that went into it. So that's just one project that's going on at the moment, but there's also a big focus of the Brahma Kumaris is on yogic farming. So as I mentioned, a lot of the practices and teachings are centered around meditation and inner peace. So yogic farming is kind of the perfect solution and a unique form of farming that combines the meditative practices along with the organic agriculture to communities in India. And there's been field studies in Rajasthan where this has been implemented, which show an improved seed quality and increase in crop yield as a result of the yogic farming. There are other initiatives which are more closely related to peace as well. So something called Peace Drops for the Great Green Wall has been ongoing for several years, and it focuses on 3 core values, which are cooperation, peace, and hope. And the initiative kind of works around the Great Green Wall. So its objective is that to encourage individuals and groups to spend a minute every morning in silent reflection, meditation, or prayer to send vibrations of peace and good wishes to the environment and the people living there.
Beautiful and inspiring. Thank you. And so I'm curious what experiences you have had or your organization has had working with youth and especially youth of faith.
Yeah, it's a great question. We do try and have a lot of youth-focused initiatives, which are led by the youth and for the youth. So I read that I think 16% of our population currently is made up of the youth, and it's only going to increase in the future. So definitely can't ignore the youth. And I was again lucky enough to join the Brahma Kumaris on an interfaith project. So this was a project which was led by an organization called St. Ethelberg's Center for Reconciliation and Peace, and it's local to us in London. So we were in Wales with youth groups of different. So it was a multi-faith event, and there were different faith groups in attendance. And in particular, during the weekend, there was one day which was an arts and kind of creative session. So I think my main takeaway from working with the youth then was just how creative people can be, and especially when you link that to the nature. So some of the stories and the poems and the songs and dances which were shared, I think were amazing to see. And I think no one can deny the idea generation of the youth. So I think that's been what inspires me the most about working with the youth as well. And recently in London, we had so for the London Climate Action Week, we hosted an interfaith workshop on the topic of building resilience in climate crisis. So we had some listening circles in that, which also made me realize the importance of listening to the youth and giving them a platform to use their voice.
Oh, very nice. I think the next question is probably going to resonate quite a bit. But in your experience, what impact does engaging young people of faith have on climate outcomes?
So faith is, I kind of see it as a power. I asked the So Sister Jayanti, she's the additional head of the Brahma Kumaris, and I asked her a question about all the fear and anxiety that the world is kind of going through. And she said, the only thing she said to me was that fear is a lack of faith in God. So it really shows the power of faith and how the absence of faith can almost be fear in the world that we live in, and with, you know, the crisis that's going on. It's about engaging young people of faith and climate actions and outcomes. So when we use the word faith, I think it's really important to understand that faith is actually deeper than just the faith in God as we know it. So faith can look like faith in yourself. It can be faith in the divine. It can be faith in the gathering, like the Faith for Earth Council that we have. And also faith in what you call the drama, which everyone is an actor on. So kind of like the world stage. So I think having faith in any of those aspects is really what gives youth the power to act, and kind of equips them with like the resources that they need.
That makes total sense to me. Yeah, thank you. And so what advice would you give to young people of faith looking to be more productive and effective in their engagement?
Yeah, so one thing I said earlier was that it's really important to give the youth a platform where they can use their voice. So of course there is that, and nothing can kind of take that away. But I think one piece of advice would be to not just use your voice, but also your thoughts to generate positive, elevated thoughts. Apparently, so it's been said that a person influences roughly 80,000 people in their life, which is an incredible number of people. So if that's how many people you can influence through your actions, just to think about how many people I can reach with my thoughts. One thing that we do at the Brahma Kumaris is have a world meditation hour. So all of the centers worldwide take out an hour on the third Sunday of every month and sit in collective meditation to send vibrations of peace and love to the whole planet. So I guess the piece of advice is to challenge yourself on what it is that you can do, because there's no one who can't do anything. So I think approaching every situation with what can I do and what can I give? Because even if it's a few minutes of your time or something as simple as your thoughts, which you can have while doing other things as well, it definitely counts. And I think it's also what the planet needs.
Thank you so much, Vini. It has been such a pleasure to learn about you, about your organization, and the wonderful work that you're doing. Very inspirational. Thank you.
Thank you.